Well, hello there. It is me, Shiggy. And we're here with another episode. Oh my God, I believe this is episode 38, potentially. Now, I'm going to have to put a little bit of a warning on this episode. I have not had any sleep. If you're watching the live video of this, you may well see me in my usual onesie that I put on after I've stopped being naked. And I haven't even had any coffee yet. So the squirrels are currently running rampant in my brain, trying to get me to think and do all sorts of other things other than talk in this podcast episode. And I do have coffee, and it is right in front of me. And I will be slurping it like a maniac over the next, 45 minutes or so. And I managed to hit the record button this time. I'm a genius. So today's episode has a very sexy title. In Blind Pursuit of Happiness. And I did a whole song and dance earlier just to get myself in the mood. And a little subtitle, My Business Journey from Olympics to Miserable PT. I feel there is a, is it an adverb or an adjective? I think it's an adjective. I'd probably say my business journey from maniacal Olympic manager to miserable PT. Yeah, there we go. That's what we're going to. Hello, cat. How much do you want to bet that my cat is going to take a shit in the next 5 minutes? And then I'm going to have to sit here and slurp my coffee. Oh, wait. That's perfect. Go take a shit. He's having his face scratched. So, when we are born, we don't particularly have any desires of things we want to do other than maybe play with our toys and maybe have conversations with our parents and annoy them to the nth degree and maybe go play with our friends if we have any. And then we get older, and then you get the whole, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you're just like an astronaut. They're like, oh, that's so cute. And then as you get older and you're just like, no, I want to be an astronaut. And they're like, I don't think you have the grades. Ooh. And with that, like, it's such a weird concept, right? When adults, not just your parents, like your cousins and whatever, everyone's just like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you're like, bitch, I don't know. How about you expose me to some stuff, Wow, Icarus, you're being really, really thingy today. Stop clawing my arm. So yeah, like, you have your parents and they're all like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you're like, the only thing I have as a point of influence and information is TV and school and just looking at the teachers and kind of being like, no, I don't want any of those things. Now it's a little bit different, of course, because we have the internet. Yay, the internet. You have the internet, you can actually explore what you want to be. And what's quite fun is, as much as we are not a fan of influencers are a thing. Having a job as an influencer is a thing. It's a very, I don't want to say sleazy, although in some cases it can be, but it's a lucrative side hustle to do if you get the formula right, if you've got the right aesthetic look, if your genetics are on point, then, you can wear revealing things on Instagram and show off your booty and sell, I don't know, poop tea. And they'll give you a budget because you have like 2 million followers, and their kind of metrics will obviously be, if you shake your butt with our poop tea to 2 million people, maybe you get about 500,000 people looking at it. From that, maybe you get, I don't know, 10,000 sales. And, if your poop tea is like £10 by 10,000. I don't know. We're going deep into maths and I haven't had enough coffee for light mental arithmetics. Anyway, it's a lot. And, if you pay someone, you pay an influencer, like, my cat's looking very strange. Did you throw up in the bedroom? So basically, TLDR, being an influencer, as much as we hate all of it, is a lucrative job option now for kids. So, a kid growing up watching their favorite gamer on YouTube isn't a bad thing, because they'll just be like, I want to grow up and be like that famous Twitch person. Or they want to grow up and become an e-gamer. Now, that's a legitimate thing, and they make hella money, which is crazy. And it kind of makes me wish I didn't stop playing video games, because I was actually not bad when I let my ADHD out and just went full on, like, myopia, blinkers on, and just killed everyone in Unreal Tournament. And I think I finished Max Payne in like less than 72 hours. I did a run. I didn't realize that's a thing, but just went straight for it. Came home jet lagged as hell, or my sleeping patterns were out. And I just decided, hey, whatever, I'm gonna play this new video game that my mum for some reason thought I'd like. And I did. In 3 days, drinking copious amounts of Mountain Dew. I think it was Red Alert, which was one of my other favorite PC games to play, Red Alert Command and Conquer. And donuts. I think I was fueled on donuts, Mountain Dew, Red Alert, and that's it. But I had to stop that because my grades weren't failing, but my grades weren't great. I just didn't care. Like, if I don't care about something, then, it doesn't get much attention. But I digress. So we have adults asking us what we want to be when we grow up, and we're forced into this kind of herd thinking, this herd mentality of we must become a thing when we grow up. And it's like, okay, maybe, I don't know, I wouldn't agree, but fine. And from what you want to be when you grow up, like, you're in school, you are mollycoddled to the nth degree, you don't know your head from your asshole, and then all of a sudden, you're like, pick things to study at university, and you're just like, okay, well, I guess I'm good at, what did I do? I'm good at music technology, because that's what I decided to do at A-levels. Half decent at IT. I did media studies. God, what else did I do? What did I study at A-level? I did music technology. Oh, no. Music technology, art, IT. Oh, yeah. And media studies. Art. I forgot the art bit because it was the fun one. So I did music technology, graphic design, IT, and media studies, and took all of them to A2. Not because I was good at them. I mean, I was good at them, but they were just fun. They were enjoyable. They were, they were a thing to do. And then, after you do your A-levels or after you do college, everyone's like, university. And you're just like, what? I don't know. I'm feeling my way through this stuff. Like, I only just got given freedoms of some sort at like college level. School, it's like, you have to do your GCSEs. You have to do these set level of things to become a functioning adult. It's like, okay, but I still don't know how to balance my savings account. And I've learned, don't worry. And then, all of a sudden you're told to go do some grown-up shit, like go study something so you can get a job in something. And you're like, it's really ass backwards. Like, in my very humble opinion, as someone who doesn't have a degree, I tried 3 degrees. I don't know why we're going down this route. There's a reason. I tried 3 different degrees across 2 different pretty high-level universities. So I studied creative music and technology at Brunel University. I moved over and studied multimedia technology and design at Brunel University. After that, I moved to University of Westminster and studied architecture. And this was in central London, in Baker Street. So they're not exactly Mickey Mouse courses, none of them. Like, the multimedia technology and design was a BSc, was a Bachelor of Science. And my architecture, the pathway that I was going down was the BSc as well, because I wanted to do urban design. very technical, which I was actually enjoying, but just everyone was such a see you next Tuesday, and I couldn't deal with it. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to be subjected to 7+ years of this just to become a junior architect and then have to brown nose my way up to something half. No. I hate people at the best of times. I'm not about to work that, because I will make people cry when I tell them some home truths. So yeah, so having that whole like, what do you want to do when you grow up is a really, really weird, an unhealthy thing to put on kids. Like, don't ask them questions, show them opportunities, show them possibilities. You know, there's the whole, bring your child to work day thing, which I think is great, you know, and I think it shouldn't be just one day. I think it should be a couple times a year. So your child, if you have one, really understands what it is that mom and dad does. And even if you work for yourself, you know, bring them to work. Say you've got a nice, exciting day of meetings and stuff to do. And they're chill meetings, you know, not new meetings where you're trying to tender for new work. Just chill things. Just show your children what is out there beyond looking at YouTube, or maybe even cultivate or curate a list on YouTube of various interesting jobs that kind of fit the description of things they're curious about or into right now. Whatever. University happens. You get a degree, you don't get a degree. Okay, you get a degree and the job you get is amazing and that's it. You know, the end. You're done. You are a Disney anomaly. Congratulations. I have a lot of beef with Disney. But for the most part, most people don't really get that. They do the degree and they end up getting a job at Waitrose, like stacking shelves for a while. And then maybe they try a job, realize they're not really happy. And if they have the right kind of mental capacity, they leave the job. If the money's good, then they stay. Then they start taking antidepressants to manage the fact that they hate their job, and so forth and so on. And then we die. Or you get married, you have kids, and then you repeat the cycle. So the whole title, In Blind Pursuit of Happiness, is a bit of a dig at the adult version of what do you want to be when you grow up, Timmy? Because we're a Western society obsessed with the pursuit of happiness. You know, just finding balance in everything so that you are happy. That's all you want. That's all we want, is to be happy. But it's not. Because if you're happy forever, then there's nothing to bounce off of. All right. If you're depressed forever, there's definitely nothing to bounce off of. But equally on the other side, if you're happy forever, you have nothing to bounce off of. You need that kind of wave of good and bad and kind of meh in the middle to just keep on moving like our bodies do it. You know, my not having any freaking sleep because I felt like there was glass in my eyeballs and, you know, fluff stuck up my nostrils because I have severe allergies. Well, this year I have severe allergies. Means I'm a little bit miserable right now, which is probably fuel to this episode, making it a little bit more dramatic than usual. And hopefully when I go buy some Zyrtec, and I'm not going to say that. If I say that, people will be like, what the hell, Shiggy? But take some Zyrtec and hopefully feel better because there's still some graininess in my eye now. Then I'm appreciative of medicines that stop hay fever from happening. You know, good with the bad, sweet with the sour, sweet and sour pork. It's a thing. You need to have it. But if you don't curate your Instagram account, for example, or whatever you're exposed to on the internet, if you don't curate that carefully, you will be suckered into this freaking loop, warp, sinkhole of, I think I mentioned this before, and either not in the last episode, but the episode before, you're just sucked into this freaking pothole of toxic positivity, right? So there's the toxic ideas around what you should demand out of life. Yeah, you should demand, you know, things out of life, out of your partners, out of whatever. But you need to do the work too, because if you don't, then you're just as shit a human as those circumstances you don't like being in. And I'm talking about relationships and all that jazz. So with your job, if you have a decent job and it just requires you to graft a little bit more than usual, don't be a dick. Just do the work if you like the work, So I am segueing into my subtitle. How good is that? So bringing it into the topic of the day is, before I'm doing what I'm doing now, which is, running an audio production business, I have done many iterations of jobs over the last, since 2005. I'm not going to count. You can count. I don't like feeling old. And the main one that I started doing was after working at Yellow Pages. So this was in degree 2. I did a sandwich thing at Yellow Pages and became a graphic designer, and the money was decent and the work was fun, relatively fun, but the workspace was toxic as hell. And I didn't realize this until I left. And I left because the antidepressants I was being put on, they just kept on upping the medication. And as they upped the medication of my antidepressants, my depression and anxiety kept on going up. And I'm just like, this doesn't make sense. This isn't a good idea. The obvious issue, the foundation to this entire pack of house of cards, is my job. So let me leave the job and see how I do. And literally within a week, I stopped taking the antidepressants, stopped the job, and I was fine. All right. And I think people need to do that. Like, if the job doesn't suit your character, then leave. But what is your character? How do you figure out what kind of job suits your personality? You just gotta kiss a lot of frogs. A lot of them. Like, a lot. But if you kiss a frog and it makes you throw up, leave. Don't keep on kissing the damn frog unless it's what's the toad that you lick for funsies in the Amazon? I can't remember. Anyway, unless you have a licking toad, in which case, trip balls and have fun for sure. But in normal circumstances, there is certainly a case for maybe spending your 20s to just thrash. Seth Godin writes about this, I think, in many books, but Linchpin is my book du jour. Where is it? Where's Linchpin for people who are watching? I think I'm reading it at the moment. Wait. Oh, there it is. Come here, my pretty. Let me show you to people. Okay. It was behind my keyboard. My keyboard's huge. So I love this book. This is tilted that way. There we go. This is Linchpin by Seth Godin. Are You Indispensable? How to thrive, how to drive your career and create a remarkable future. This probably influences a lot, because I did actually read this sometime in around 2008 or so, or 2009. Just trying to check. When was it published? Did I read it? No, 2010. That's when I read it. So yeah, the Olympics kind of happened because of this book. But what is said in here, and I think he says it in a couple of other books that he's written as well, is it's important to thrash early. And he says that more about products and ideas and businesses. It's really important to thrash early and ship often. So you pull that into the job space when, maybe you don't go to university. Like, if I had a choice, I wouldn't have gone to university. But my parents were just like, you have to do the thing. And I'm just like, y'all are broken. Why the hell are you trying to fix me? But, you could say you do your A-levels and then you go off and do an apprenticeship. I'm a huge advocate for apprenticeships. So you do the work, you try the work, and you're getting paid for doing it. So, the business gets something out of you, but you get a huge amount out of that. And you're like, okay, maybe I don't like farming. Go do something else. Maybe I don't like running retail. Do something else. Maybe I love coaching, kids teams, or just working in leisure centers and helping people with fitness. Whatever you do the thing, feel it, review, and then move on. So I did the Yellow Pages thing, the antidepressants thing all happened, and I left and realized, okay, I don't do office spaces. I don't. Like, you're leaving a box to go into a box, to go work in a box, and then you come back to a box and rinse until you're dead. Rinse and repeat until you're dead. Not my jam. Not my jam at all. So I moved into security work purely because I'm quite good at talking to people, and apparently I have a presence with my 5'6" having self. that commands a certain level of attention when necessary. I don't mind staring at people, especially if they're doing stupid shit. And then the eyebrows start going, where it's just like, I'm silently judging you because you're being an idiot. And you know you're being an idiot. And you're watching me, watching you being an idiot. This needs to stop. And then they usually get kicked out. So security started, I got my badge. It was pretty easy. The course was super easy. It was just sense, just don't be a dick. And just from that, I think 2006 when I started security, and moved on from working at my student union nightclub. Then I went and worked at Wembley, and I went from a Joe average steward to a lift steward to a manager in 6 months, 9 months. It was 9 months. So I went from a steward to a manager in 9 months, just because I was just like, what is this? What the fuck is this? Like, literally, I'm gonna tell people, like, you're doing something wrong, and then I'm gonna go tell my manager, like, this is the thing, I saw that happen, this is what happened, you might need to do a report about it. And then I ended up writing reports for them, and then they're just like, why don't you just become a manager? You see all this stuff anyway. And I'm just like, okay, the pay's great. So yeah, that you start setting that Naomi Campbell money, right? Obviously not £10,000 an hour. I wish. But I think my thing was I started bullying the company where they're like, can you come work? I'm like, not for less than £12 an hour. They're like, what? I'm like, I have tasted blood and I will accept nothing less. It's not quite that dramatic. But yeah, they basically understood, oh, okay, well, she values herself as a high value employee, 0-hour employee, yes. And they did it. They didn't bother me with steward work or lift steward work. They literally were just like, we have a managerial opening for whatever football match or concert was on at Wembley Stadium. Do you want in? I'm like, yeah, as long as it's managerial or above, I'm good. And that became a thing. That was a permanent thing. And with other security jobs, being a nightclub fiend, I just love going out at night. It's so much fun, and you have fun with people, and everyone's super chilled, and they don't have to worry about work. I did a lot of security work at nightclubs. So I DJ at nightclubs, but security work is just as fun without as much responsibility in one way. And the same thing happened. After a while, I was being headhunted just on my own. And then I had to create teams of security people. So people I'd work with, I'd take their phone numbers. I'm like, hey, I get gigs every now and then, the pay will be good. Cause I'm not skimping. Like, no one's getting paid less than £10 an hour for security work. Like, it should be more in the UK. I know I'm using pound references, but in the 90s, I heard, because I was still a baby or still a child in the 90s. I was not doing security work in the 90s. But it wasn't uncommon for door persons to be averaging at least £20 an hour. Because obviously before the SIA and the formalization of the security industry was around, you just had bruisers. You just had nightclub bouncers were just, bruisers, guys from prison or various other walks of life who, just needed a job, and they got paid handsomely to keep the riffraff out and to potentially break people's noses of those they didn't like. And I'm really glad that doesn't happen anymore. But the pay has gone down, as basically anyone can become a door person just with a weekend course, which is kind of annoying, but it is what it is. But I digress. So I'm really good at talking. I'm really good at being confident and directing, and my pattern-seeking brain can look at rooms and, figure out where problems are very, very quickly. My fascination of behavioral psychology means I read people fairly quickly as well, and the slight empathy thing. Just a lovely cocktail of good for doing security work, which worked in my favor. And over time, I started this in 2008, and then 2012 was a thing. London got the Olympics. Woo! We got the Olympics. And the team that I worked for at Wembley Stadium, they got one of the tenders, and, they had to supply security stuff. And I was headhunted as one of the managers for one of the areas in the Olympic Park, which is now, I believe, called Queen Elizabeth Park, which is the newest park that's been added to the UK in the last 150 years or something. So the gift of the gab got me to that position. So the theme of the podcast is, this blind pursuit of happiness. With the security work, it was hard The hours were long. The hours were awkward. Was I happy? Not in the Instagram sense of happy. Have you seen security people posting like really inspirational quotes on Instagram? No, because we're sleeping. You don't give a shit about your kind of whatever things. We're asleep. But we have a really, really good community of people that we work with. We kind of get rid of those who aren't so great, if they're not great. And we work together as a team when we have time off. You know, if it's the end of an event, so say if it was the Olympics or if it was a BBC weekend, BBC Radio 1 weekend or something, right? At the end of it, we would all sit together and we talk and we decompress together. And it's that community aspect. That's what kept me going. Having a team of brothers and sisters, in quotation marks. I really hate that phrase, but it makes sense. Is really, really important. So defining your form of happiness is really, really important. But we don't tend to do that. I've left my windows open, but we don't tend to do that until much later on. Some people in their 20s, they get it. Some people in their 20s, you know, they think of themselves and maybe they do a gap year before or after university, or they just travel, or they do something to really search inside themselves and figuring out what they want to do. Now, not many people do that. If you do the university and job thing, then you don't really have the opportunity to do that. You just kind of think, oh, well, I'm working this office job as an accountant or an investor or something, and I get really good bonuses, so I'm going to go and like be happy on holiday. Like in America, I think you only get 10 days of holiday a year. And in the UK, I think it's anywhere from 25 to 28 days of paid leave. And then you got public holidays off as well. So it's quite a bit. But still, it's not a space for you to explore yourself, to explore what happiness means for you. So with the Olympics and everything, I carried on doing it because it was great. It was my ego getting stroked because there was a little bit of recognition going, hey, you're good enough to be a manager and be part of a managing team that's overlooking over 1,000 personnel, including MOD personnel. Me, little Shiggy, the little Shiglet, or the little Shigglypuff, which is today's title. I am the little Shigglypuff. Got to be the boss bitch, the badass boss bitch of some killers, like MOD personnel. We're talking Air Force, we're talking Army, and we're talking Navy, and everything in between. Like, there were a lot of Marines. I was very happy. There were a lot of Marines all over there. And some of the conversations with them, because they're quite chill, once they understand everything, the interesting thing about MOD personnel is once they understand that there's a hierarchy, even with a civvy, they respect it to your face, at least. And I got to talk to a few people, and just it's really interesting kind of observing how they function. And they do have a huge community sense. You have to. Imagine being a single individual in a team. Like, you'd get kicked out instantly. So being a manager, I had a team of managers, which were MOD personnel, civilians, volunteers. So it was quite interesting you had the volunteers, you had the security folk, and then you had the MOD. And most of us were looking after the volunteers because a lot of them were just office workers and had never, ever worked like a 16-hour shift in their life on their feet for 16 hours. Like, you get lunch for an hour or whatever, but ultimately you're on your feet for at least 15, 16 hours, assuming we don't go overtime. And there was a shock to the system for a lot of them. But it was fun. You know, it was just the camaraderie, the team effort. I have Journey, Don't Stop Believing in my head forever. It lives in my brain rent-free because, you know, the military obviously love it. Like, all them guys love it. So it was on the radio, the overhead speakers, fairly often, just to keep morale going, which was really interesting psychology to kind of be a part of and to observe. And yeah, just to see, like, you know, if we're all having a bit of a shit day, you know, the managers would just have a talk about the music, and boom, there'd be this playlist of random things, and you just see everyone's mood just lifting, including the people coming in, because we're dealing with like 250,000 people a day on average. Sometimes we broke that. I think we hit 280,000 at one point, just constant rolling of people. And that was great. But that was, I think, about a year of just managerial work, working Canary Wharf, doing all of that. Hated that because I was back in an office. Absolutely hated it. Back in an office for a bit, losing the will to live, but remembering there's something great at the end of this and a story that I can tell forever. Not to grandchildren, but to everyone else. And it was all down to camaraderie. So I understood. I didn't understand at the time. It took a couple more therapy sessions to reach this point. But as much as I'm a singular human being that likes being on her own, it's really important to have community, right? So I like community. I also like external validation for my efforts, right? Those are two things. I also like giving back, and with the external validation and the community, giving back to community, giving back to people, helping people with the skills that I have, super duper important. So the Olympics happened, made a lot of money relative to myself, made a whole bunch of money. And then I just stopped for a while. I chilled and stayed at home and really just asked myself, what do I want to do with my life? I mean, there were other complications at the time, which I'm not going to go into, maybe at another time. But ultimately, you know, I could pause. I could be a 20-year-old and pause and ask myself, what do I want to do? And I was already doing my personal training course, but very, very slowly. I worked corporate security before the Olympics, and I was studying my personal training degree then. And I got back into it and just went head first into it and decided, you know what, fine, I'll do this and turn it into a thing. And that's kind of when I stumbled upon John Goodman. I think I mentioned him maybe 30 episodes ago. I get to say that now. That's really strange. 30 episodes ago. And I won't go too deeply into it. But ultimately, buying one book, Ignite the Fire, I think... No, I do still have that book somewhere. Where is it? I'm not going to hunt for it because I genuinely don't know where that one is. I haven't looked at it in so long. But his first book was Ignite the Fire, which is just basically a really good handbook for personal trainers. I highly recommend it. And it taught me how to interview places I wanted to work at, which is a really strange concept. You don't get told, like, you know, how do you interview the place you're working at? Like, yes, you need a job. Yes, you need to get to a place. But if all you show is desperation and the need to just get in somewhere, then you could be kissing a frog that you don't even need to be kissing, right? So that book was amazing. Taught me how to interview the interviewer and question, like, the entire work ethic of a space. So you come in and before you even head to reception, you just pause a little bit and just look at, you know, how the reception works, how the receptionists work, how they treat people. Are they on their phone all the time? Have they clocked you before you even finished closing the front door? In America, they do this, which is great. Over here, not so much. I do it. When I see people, I'm just like, hey, what's going on? And they're just like, oh my God, it's that weird, crazy pseudo-American person doing American salutations. But it works. I got clients that way. And yeah, you know, I went into personal training and I tried doing it the way that I thought it was meant to be done. So when you start at a gym, and if you're a client of a gym, you probably see this. Like sharks, we walk around the gym floor, our open water space, and we look for you, the little guppy, the little tiny guppy, to try and lure into a personal training program. And you're aware of this, and like the little sheep guppy that you are, you're praying, begging, hoping that the huge ass headphones you have on your head are a big enough sign to tell us to fuck off. No, we have KPIs to hit. I'm sorry. If you work at Virgin Active especially, we have like every member every minute. That was one thing we had to do. I think it was every couple of hours in between cleaning and in between teaching classes. We had to like visit every single member who was on the gym floor and talk to them. Which I get, you know, the psychology behind it is sound to a point, but also if you've got regulars and you've seen them like for every single day, they're just looking at you like, you don't need to do this. Just pretend you spoke to me. Just go away. So that is kind of an aspect of this kind of, this is the way it's been done, and it's just the way that you do it kind of thing that I followed, and I was miserable. I was not happy. Like, me going up to people that would much rather me leave them alone, especially as I'm quite sensitive to body language. I've been studying it from the age of 0 because I, for a long time, spoke the wrong language in the relative places I was living in. You know, fluent Swahili in English spaces, fluent English in Swahili spaces. I hated it. I'm just like, why am I doing this? Why am I subjecting myself to this when, you know, I'm pretty sure that person will come over when they're ready? No, they won't. But I learned, again, with what John Goodman did, I failed to mention when I got my job, like my dream position. It wasn't really a dream position. It was an ideal space to grow. I sent him an email saying thank you, and he sent me an email back, and like getting that just like pumped me up. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Cause I sent him an essay. I didn't know like there was a certain etiquette with emails, but I literally sent him an essay saying, thank you so much for your book. It was really helpful. This didn't work for me, but this really did, blah, 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 blah. And he just sent one back, just literally full on ping pong, just every single point I made, he had a reply back, which was amazing. And I really wish I didn't lose that email. But from that, I started looking at this personal training space as a little bit of a Disney lie. It's a Disney lie because, well, a lot of people were leaving. A lot of personal trainers were leaving. And I'm like, okay, is this normal? Apparently, yes. The personal training space does have a high churn rate. And people get burnt out, hugely burnt out. You know, the hours that they're doing because they're just trying to capture all the different times. So in personal training, if you've never kind of thought about what a personal trainer does, there's the morning clients. So we're slaves, essentially, to the 9 to 5. We work around the 9 to 5. So in the morning, you can have anywhere from like 4:30 in the morning. I never did that. I'm like, if you're waking up at 4:30, go and enjoy your life, because that's not my jam at all. But I did 5:30s, 5 o'clocks a few times. And I was just like, no, I value my sanity way too much. But, you know, you get people from, say, 5 o'clock in the morning till maybe about 8:30 in the morning, maybe 9 o'clock, depending on, you know, if their office is around the corner or not. And then you might have the kind of 10, 11 o'clocks of people who work from home or whatever. Then you get the lunchtime push. So from about 12 till about 2:30, you get that kind of window. Then maybe you get the after school, you know, nannies or whoever at that point, but they're far and few between. And then you get the evening crowd from about 5 till probably about 9 o'clock. So as a personal trainer, you're potentially awake from 4 in the morning till probably 11 o'clock at night, 12 o'clock in some instances, if you have to like commute home and stuff. And you're running on 5 hours of sleep every day. If you really like money, like you're doing this Monday through Sunday and not taking a day off, which I did for a while only because I had to do shifts. And I didn't like it. I have an opinion. I didn't like it. And I'm like, you know what? This isn't okay. So I decided to do it my way, which was I'm going to go and train. I'm going to do little bits of training throughout the day. In the peak times, I'm going to train. I'm going to take up space in the free weights area, because my ideal client are women who want to train hard, but are terrified of getting bulky. So if I can physically show the women on the treadmill, and I always positioned myself to do whatever. My thing is deadlifts. Like if I can deadlift really heavy weights in the angle of the cardio section, I know women are looking. When they're looking at dudes' asses, fine. But they're also looking at me, the little weirdo who's deadlifting 100 kilos. And I don't look bulky. I actually look soft. I actually look tiny. I don't look like I can deadlift to 100 kilos. 200, I wish. But I do. So I'm leading by example. I'm showing them what's good. I'm creating a community in the free weights area because, you know, I'm a community person. I like being around people, even though I don't like being around people. But what ultimately happens is when I leave the free weights area and I go and stretch, and I stretch for 45 minutes at least, they will come over to me and it's like, hey, so you're one of the personal trainers here? Yeah. And I developed that just because from another thing, like, so without blowing all the smoke up John Goodman's butt, but the personal training development center is another website that's good for personal trainers. But there's this thing that I've taken on board, which is do a good job and make sure everybody knows about it. Like, that's literally been a motto that I've taken from the beginning of my personal training all the way through to what I'm doing now. And doing that meant I got my first couple of clients. I had one client who was just so dedicated. She trained with me 3 times a week. She did my classes as well. So she was essentially getting me 5 days a week. And she trained with other group classes as well. But over time, our training got so intense that she had to reduce her group exercise classes because the way I was training her meant that she needed to recover. And she's like, I don't want to recover. I'm like, no, you need to recover. So with that, you know, I had her, she was my talk piece. She's a great friend now. I have a few great friends as clients. But she'd go into the ladies' bathroom, into the ladies' changing room, and people would see this change that would happen in like 0 time flat. And they're like, who do you train with? And she's like, oh, I train with Shiggy. Boom. People will come up and be like, I want to train with you. But whatever you're doing with her, I want it. I'm like, you can't do what she's doing, but we'll work together. We can make something happen. If you've got a determination, and I love that, then we're good to go. So with this Blind Pursuit of Happiness thing, pulling it back in again, my personal training business went really well. It got really good. It got, you know, I reached a point where I decided I didn't want to train people in the morning anymore. Like, I'd only maybe train people at 7. All right. If people needed to do early mornings, I'd be like 7 o'clock is the earliest I'm doing. I value myself and I need 8 hours of sleep. So 7 o'clock is going to happen. And it reached a point where I managed to work, I think, an average of 20 to 25 hours. That was how many client hours. I mean, the behind the scenes work was obviously more, but my physical hours were about 20 or 25 hours, including not training people on a Friday after 3 p.m. and training people on Saturday between 10 a.m. and 2, just because I didn't really mind and I wasn't really doing anything, and not training people on Sundays. So I reached my ultimate happiness, and I'm using inverted commas or quotation marks if you're listening to this. I reached my happiness point. I also moved away from people paying per session. I moved into subscription models, right? So people were either paying me at the beginning of the month or at the middle of the month. So I had 2 paydays. Holy crap. Do you know how good it feels to have 2 paydays? When you have, I think I maxed out at 15 clients. I can't do more than 15 connections, like really intense connections with people. 15 clients, them paying you across 2 different paydays. Like, I was beyond happy. It's insane. Like, I was just like, oh, this is what it feels like not to have like financial worries or financial struggles, and to just live a nice life. The only problem is, of course, if I had to take time off, then, you know, we'd have to squeeze times in. Again, there was so much flexibility. It was great. I thought this was it. I was just like, cool, I've done it. I was averaging, I'm not shy to say it, I was averaging £3,500 a month, right? And that's including about £300 being deducted from my gym rent. I was doing okay. I was doing very, very, very okay. But the problem with that, with my ADHD brain, is I reached a pinnacle. I reached a level or a split in the road. And the 2 choices that I had, I didn't like. I didn't like them because I had 2 choices now. If I wanted to take on more clients, I'd have to take on more clients and work more hours. And my pay rate was fine. I didn't want to charge any more. Or I'd have to start finding junior personal trainers to train up in my style of coaching and trust them to coach the other clients, and I take a percentage of that, which I wasn't too keen on because the place I was working in meant that the business would take a percentage of my percentage, and it felt a bit Ponzi, really. I wasn't a fan of that at all. And then the other option was to open a gym, and I didn't want that either. So I'm stuck at this freaking split in the road of my personal training journey, making hella Skrilla miserable. Right? So I was going up the ladder. I was going up the ladder of this perceived career happiness, career satisfaction, so forth and so on. But I ultimately reached a point where I was unhappy. I didn't like the progression. I should have looked ahead. You know, like if I had have looked ahead, then maybe I would have kind of circumvented this, but I didn't. And I was miserable, literally miserable, to the point where my body decided, you know what, these 5 hours of sleep every day things. And I was taking modafinil as well, because the amount of work and stuff I was doing. And then also I did security work because I just wanted to top it up. Like I was like, oh, let me see if I can make a £4,000 month. I did a couple of those as well. But that was because of security work and DJing. And yeah, I reached a point of burnout. I took 2 weeks off, you know, and just fucked off. I know I mentioned this in a previous episode, but I'm saying it again because of this thing. Like, I needed time away. You need to have time away. If you can't think straight, if nothing is making sense, and if you're listening and you live in London, understand that London has a very persuasive undertone to how it influences you. You don't realize how London influences you until you leave for a good chunk of time, right? The pressures of having to pay your bills, pay the rent, get to work on time, you know, dealing with all these microaggressions during the day, whatever those microaggressions are. They can be sexist, they can be racial, they can be ageist, they can be careerist, right? Whatever things, all of those things happen on a day-to-day basis. And it runs you down. It really, really pushes you. And even when you're at home thinking you're relaxing, you're not relaxing either, because at the back of your mind is constantly thinking, you know, if it's during the week, you have your work week. If it's during the weekend, you have your social demands as well. You have to go do this. You have to go that. Oh, it's going to be a big night on Friday. And then you're hungover. You're super hungover, but you have to go brunch with the girls. And then after that, you have to go catch up with friends and have dinner at theirs. You're working on the weekend as well. There's no stopping. There's no off button until you leave. Now, some people are going to be like, no, but there is. I'm like, yeah, fine, cool, but no. For the sake of this argument, of this conversation, no. So I went to Italy for a couple of days and went climbing, and ultimately going to Paris on my own I was really happy. Like I can survive in Paris. My French is really, really limited, but just walking around, meandering and not really thinking about much other than maybe I'm going to go to the Panthéon over here and then maybe to the Pompidou and then go check the Notre Dame before the fire. I got to see it before the fire happened. It was really nice. That kind of feeling of freedom where you don't have anything at the back of your head. Like, my clients were all well looked after. I gave them all training plans. Some of them didn't need training plans because the way I train people is so that they can become self-sufficient. All they would need is just a check-in. So I send them a message going, hey, what's good? And, you know, they tell me what's up, which I need to do. Having that taste, the taste of that kind of happiness, you don't get unless you look for it. Like, you try it, you explore the ideas, which is why I mentioned YouTube, like curating a list of YouTube things before. Like, just go into YouTube and search for, like, you know, beautiful walks through cities or fun. I don't know what you guys do for fun. I love walking and sitting and observing anything. Like, that's my jam. And then maybe kind of being part of a community and talking and exploring and looking again and just learning. I'm a perpetual student of life, which is probably why I find philosophy quite fascinating and fun. So it took almost melting and burning out from a good position. And I wouldn't call it like, you know, a millionaire's kind of dichotomy where they're sat on top of a sand dune crying into their Prosecco. But I had my own version of that. I think Tim Ferriss had his own, I wouldn't say version, his own thing where he kind of went to Ireland. He went from the US to Ireland and just decided to to have a breakdown and cry in the rain on a hill somewhere. I'm pretty sure that's in his 4-Hour Workweek book, because it's quite vivid to remember. But I'm just saying all of this because it's not necessary. You should actually actively put in time and space to really understand if you're happy or not. And like really look into what that means and what that looks like for you. If you're single and you have little to no responsibilities like myself, then, you know, you can move if you want to. That's what I'm planning on doing. You don't have to be stuck in the same place forever unless you like it. If you like it there, then you figure out how to make it work. What does working look like for you? What does a really good day look like for you? There's this Mind Valley meditation. I think it's the 6-phase meditation. That's free. It's out there. And what I really like about it, I do it every couple of months, is you envisage your day, like your perfect day. Like you're waking up. Where are you waking up? How are you waking up? I am not waking up with alarms, and I don't wake up. I haven't woken up to an alarm for a very long time, but that's for another conversation. Like, how are you waking up? Where are you waking up? What's your morning look like? You know, are you with loved ones? Are you on your own? Mine, my ultimate day is I wake up and someone tells me what to do. And they're just like, you have to go see your personal trainer now, or your movement coach, or you have to go see your choreographer. And then I get taken to the studio, and then we do music with my sound engineer. And then I go and have lunch with a whole bunch of friends. And like, you know, I've got various perfect days, but it's a really fun exercise to do, because then you can really start looking at how to get a little taste of that into your life, just to kind of make life a little bit more interesting, make it a little bit more comforting. And I'm going to wrap it up now because I've been talking for ages. This is a long episode. I was like, oh, I'm averaging 35, 40-minute episodes. 55-minute monster. Maybe I should not drink coffee. So with the Blind Pursuit of Happiness, you know, wherever you are, it's really important to always take stock. That's the word I was looking for the last 53 minutes. Take stock of what you're up to, why you're up to it. Does it serve you? Does it not serve you? Can you make it better? Do you want to make it better? And it's not because you ultimately want to be completely happy. That's bad. Like, being completely happy is a very, very bad idea. Having a life and having a situation, or, you know, possibly even having a career that challenges you in the right way is way more rewarding than just having a job or just doing stuff for the sake of getting money, you know, because no one wants that. So yeah, I think that's where I'm going to end it today, because that was a fun old meander into a little part of one section of my business journey. But I hope you enjoyed it. As usual, I'm trying to put the volume up. As usual, try and find me wherever on the internet. I'm on Instagram as Elshig. I'm on Twitter as Elshig. And I'm on Facebook as Shigamus. Or just look for Shiggy Pactor, whichever way. Little note on the Facebook thing. If you do find me, send me a message. Tell me where you've come from. Like, don't send me a random hello. I get very suspicious with hellos. Because I don't want another Nigerian prince telling me I've inherited a whole bunch of money and then it turns out being a lie. That's just, it makes me sad, man. I just want love. Okay, clearly the caffeine is kicking in, so wherever you are in the world, have a wonderful day, a wonderful, glorious day, and I'll see you in the next episode. Okay, bye.